Greetings. Hello. Hi. Today we're going to be talking about writing because I need to update you guys because I'm writing again. What is happening? If you've been keeping up with me, I'm not going to do a whole lot of backstory. I have like 10,000 videos about this. I'm in the middle of writing a book. In the middle of November, I finished the first draft of that book, which I haven't done in 10 years. It's a fiction novel. It's contemporary, new adult. It's called Popstar. That's my project name, the Popstar book. I've been sharing a lot about this on Patreon, so if you're interested in that sort of thing, I have excerpts, I have summaries, I have playlists, I have mood boards, I have literally so much information up on Patreon. So if you're hella curious, you can head over there and I have some stuff going on. So it's super exciting. I came up with the idea for this book, was it one Thanksgiving ago, 2 Thanksgivings ago? I think it was last Thanksgiving, 2018. I was in the middle of a different project for NaNoWriMo, and around Thanksgiving, I had this idea for a book, and I was like, this is it, I'm gonna write the book, it's gonna be amazing. And then I didn't, because I finished NaNoWriMo, and I was like, we'll worry about it later. So then I spent the rest of this year, early 2019, thinking about it. Over the summer, I was like, I don't know how to get the plot right. I don't know what the outline is. I need to figure out what's happening. So I read Save the Cat Writes a Novel, which is a book about plotting and writing and stuff like that. Figured out an outline. And then I went to LA at the end of September, and I was hanging out with my friend Tiernan. You probably know him. He's cool. And I was talking to him, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I want to write this book. I want to have a first draft finished by the end of the year. And he was like, well, I'm going to write my book, so you should come write with me. And I was like, all right. So we went to a coffee shop on September 22nd. I remember because I typed it into the title of my document. And I was like, September 22nd, draft, manuscript. Let's go, write it out. So I started writing this book in LA, and I wrote probably 5,000 to 10,000 words while I was in LA. And then I got home, and it was early October, and I was like, well, I want to write 100,000 words. I thought I was going to do 50,000 for this Popstar book, and then in November I would write 50,000 of a separate project. And then I hit 50K very, very early in October. I don't even remember what it was. It was 10 days in or something. So I was like, ooh, we're going to keep writing this until we figure out what's happening. So then I hit 75K at the end of October, and I was like, well, I'll keep going. We need to finish this draft. It's going to happen. So I ignored the second project, which I will come back to probably in a year or two. And halfway through November, NaNoWriMo, I finished the draft. I finished the first draft, which, like I said, hasn't happened in about 10 years. I've done NaNoWriMo 10 times now. I've only won it 3 or 4 of those 10 times. There's a couple books that I wrote a second time over Nano, so it hasn't been 10 different projects. But out of those 10 years, I've really only finished 2 fiction drafts, this one included. So, needless to say, this project is not going the way that I expected it to because it is very much flourishing and blossoming, and it's good, and I don't hate it, which I'm shocked about. I've been so excited about this book. I haven't written contemporary as a novel in a very long time because I felt like I didn't have enough life experience. And now at 24, I guess I have some life experience. I don't know. I'm writing about a 21-year-old. So it's very odd looking back on who I was, when was that, 3-4 years ago? But I have life experience. I know how to do the thing. And so I feel, I don't know. There's something about this story that is different than all the other stories I've written. Part of it is that it's a very personal story. I've worked really hard already to make it different than my life because it's not my life at all. But there's so many things in it that are from personal experience, people I know, things I've experienced, things I've seen other people I know experience. So if you're my friend and you read this book, please just mind your business and don't ask me which parts of it are super personal. You probably already know. I'm really excited about it because usually when I do NaNoWriMo, when I write the first draft of a novel, I feel like by about 20,000 words in, I realize how shitty it is. And I'm like, oh, this is terrible writing. I'm going to keep writing, but I'll fix it later. And then I never do. And this time I have a lot that I need to fix. But I've been rereading it periodically as I send it to people, as I'm working on editing, etc. And I don't hate it. It's not bad. It's not great. I don't think it's publishable right now. But reading through it, I'm like, okay, this is fixable. I like this. I enjoy this. I've sent it out to about 4 friends so far. 2 of them have already, 3 of them have finished it, and all 3 of them loved it. So that's cool. I have another friend who's in the middle of beta reading it, and he's like, oh my gosh, this is good. And I'm like, thank you. I know. So not to jinx anything, but everybody's like, when am I going to read your book? And it's like, I don't know, but hopefully soon. I have a plan. I don't know how well the plan is going to work out, but basically right now the plan is I take a break until January. January, I'm going to start editing it. I'm hoping to spend the next 8 to 10 months editing it. That's my big project for 2020. I'm not going to focus on anything else really. I'm just going to keep going and editing through my book. I'm hoping to get through probably about 4 or 5 edits in that time. I don't know if that's even possible. I've never edited a fiction novel before, so if I'm crazy, please tell me. But I'm basically basing this experience off of my poetry collection, which I edited myself. Obviously, for this book, I don't want to self-publish it. The goal is to get it actually published. So working on the editing, the whole point of the editing is to send it to an agent. And then hopefully, in theory, the agent will find me an editor who will buy it, ? And then it'll get published, also ? I don't know. I actually know nothing about the publishing process, even though I have so many friends who are doing it. So at this point, I'm kind of just like working one step at a time. I need to edit it. I need to get it sounding good, and then I can work on finding whatever else I need to find. So for those of you asking, I would like for you to be able to read it and buy it at Barnes & Noble, but like it's a very long road. So who's to say? I will hopefully keep you updated. If not here, elsewhere. Definitely will be screaming about it on Twitter. So that's exciting. But right now we're in chill mode where I don't think about it because I need to get some distance from it because I worked hard on it for about at least a month and a half, maybe 2 months. And even now I'm still like kind of thinking about it as I'm reading other books, as my friends are reading my book. And I'm already very proud of it. And I think the thing that's so interesting about editing is that like at the beginning you're like, this is so good. And then you spend about 3 drafts where you're like, wait a minute, this is terrible. And then after about 7 drafts, you're like, this is so much better. Like, I feel like if it's good now, when I get through all the edits at the end of the road, it's just going to be, I'm going to be so in love with it because I already love it so much. Like, I care about the characters. The plot is still the part that I'm most uncertain of. It needs a lot of fixing, but I really like the characters, the writing style, the voice, most of the things that happen. It's just like, it's the book of my heart. And so it would be really, really amazing if it could work out and I could get it published. But that's a story for another day to figure out. So anyways, I have questions from you guys. I asked people for writing questions because I haven't really talked about it in a while. So settle in. These are all from Instagram. Franny wants to know, what do you do to prepare yourself for writing? So it depends on the project. It depends on the novel itself, or if it's like a poetry collection or whatever. For the most part, I am very driven by outlines. I think outlines are important because if you don't have an outline, how are you going to know what happens? But for this project, what happened to prepare myself, I did spend months reading through a book that would help me plot and help me figure out what I'm doing. So I prepared a very, very good outline. At the moment, it was great. And then I got about halfway through writing that outline and realized it was way too long. And so the second half of the novel right now is just pantsing. There's really no outline happening at all. So I try and prepare where I can because I think it's helpful and it makes it easier to plot things out. However, I am a chronological writer, and so a lot of it is me being like, I wonder what's going to happen in this book. I write it as I read it, if that makes sense. And so I don't really prepare a lot. I feel like I'm a plotter with the spirit of a pantser, if that makes sense. Abigail wants to know what's on your writing playlist. Okay, so my writing playlist changes. I have writing playlists that are like, here's what I'm writing to at the moment. And then I have playlists that are based on my writing, if that makes sense. So like I have a whole playlist that is cute and it's called Pop Star. And this is the playlist of the songs that match the book. Did I write to these songs? No, I don't think at all. Because usually when I'm writing, I want things that'll fade into the background. So my writing playlist for most of November was actually a lot of K-pop. Shocking, I know. I just figured out that I could do that. That's a smart way to do it. IU, the K-pop thing. That was one. And then Jesse recommended me another one because I was like, I want some like chill K-pop that's like acoustic-y and like nice. And so I did listen to a lot of K-pop this time around, which I did not expect, but it was really, really nice because it's like it's not in English, so I have no idea what they're saying, but it feels like I'm listening to like English music. I don't know. It's very weird, but I really enjoyed doing that. So I will definitely be doing that in the future. And then I always listen to the Stranger Things soundtrack. This time I finally started listening to the third one. Second one is still the peak. But I'm a huge fan of like finding instrumental tracks, I guess, that will like fade into the background that I can put on repeat for hours and hours and hours. I also did a lot of this book writing to Chelsea Jade's album, because I saw her and I put her album on repeat a couple days later and just like listened to it. It's so good, but it was really nice to listen to that while I was writing. Liz wants to know what authors or other books inspire this story. Alice Oseman. 100%. I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman is a book that I read literally days before I started this draft, because I had heard it was similar to the kind of book that I wanted to write, and I hadn't gotten a chance to read it yet. And so I was like, I'm just gonna do it, figure it out, and try not to copy her. I did not copy her. But the feeling is very similar. It's about music. It's about this fake. It's about this boy band called The Ark. It's kind of reminiscent of One Direction, but it's not One Direction at all. And then it follows Angel as she kind of goes and meets the band, and she has fans that she's friends with. It's just like, it's a whole thing, but it's a beautiful book. And that is definitely a book that has been driving me in my writing. Alice is just an incredible author. I love her voice. I think, honestly, if I can say this, I think I am like an American version of Alice Oseman. Like, I think our writing style is kind of similar, and we have like similar ideas and similar things that we like portraying and whatever. But she's very British and I'm very American. So I kind of like that juxtaposition. I think if I had to describe myself, like, I'd be like, yeah, Alice Oseman. I would say Again But Better by Christine Riccio. That book is very driving for me. Not necessarily the voice or the writing style, but like that age, that range. Obviously I love Christine, but that book has been very inspiring for me. Obviously Red, White, and Royal Blue. The comedy in Red, White, and Royal Blue is what I aspire to be at all times, especially with my characters and stuff. So that has been very much a thing. Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I didn't love that book when I read it. I think I gave it like 4 stars. But that concept, that world, that band really has been driving this story as well. I think a combination of all of those things make up my book. Carrie wants to know, how did you manage to stick to this one idea? I tend to have so many I can't keep to one. Me too, honestly. I have that problem where I have 10,000 brilliant, wonderful ideas and none of them have seen the light of day. And so the difference, I think, for this one versus the last one that I was working on, the last one I worked on it, 2 NaNoWriMos, I'm still very passionate about it and I am going to get to it someday. But for some reason, this one, I think the only reason I was able to finish it was because it's really important to me. Like, I think it is the personal experience thing. This is a book that is close to my heart because it's kind of my story, even though it's not my story. So I have a lot of personal stuff invested in it, but it's also just really fun and I'm passionate about it. And like, I think most of the stories that get written, whether it's from me or any other author in the world, I think the ones that really make it are the ones that like the author has a connection to. They're ones that they're super passionate about, whether it's a theme or a story or a character in particular. So I think if you are having trouble sticking to one, find one that you're personally invested in for whatever reason and see if that helps you, because that's the only way I've been able to write so much for this book, is because I'm so personally invested in it that like I need it to see the light of day. Like, I love it so much and I want everybody else to love it as much as I do because it's me. What process do you use to create a character? People in your life, do you make them up, etc.? I'm gonna be real with you guys. A lot of the characters that I make up are based off of people that I know. Some of them are not, but I have a very serious problem with putting the people I love into books. Usually what happens is that I will come up with a kind of character that I'm like, oh, I really wish I could see this kind of character in a book. And I'm like, wait, I'm writing a book. I could put the character in the book. So it's usually stuff that I'm like, oh, I really wish we had like a fat ace main character who had red hair. And it's like, oh, I could create that. And so it's kind of born out of that sort of thing. That's generally how I live my life, is I'm like, man, I wish we had this. And I'm like, bitch, I'ma make that. So that's what I do. What was the hardest part of writing this book, and who is your favorite character in it? The freaking plot. Jeez. Like, literally the rest of this book is so easy. I have things in it that I had to create from scratch that were very complicated and difficult, and it took a lot of energy. And even creating the characters was like kind of complex, and I had to like come up with a lot of logistical things for various reasons. It'll make sense later. So like there were a lot of hard things about it that like took a lot of time and like whatever, but still the plot is giving me so much trouble. I just wish somebody would be like, but this is the plot. This makes sense, because right now it kind of makes sense, but also it's a mess. It's a hot mess. So that's the hardest part, has been figuring out the plot. My favorite character, spoilers. I don't think I can say First of all, I don't know if I have a favorite character yet. It's probably a tie between, there's the main character, she has a friend who she meets in the middle that I am a huge fan of, and there's another person that is not really related to anybody, who is a public figure in the novel, who I am obsessed with. I think that's all I can tell you. Katerina wants to know, if you were to describe your novel using 3 songs, what would they be? Oh, okay. This is where it's happening. Ain't It Fun by Paramore. Big mood. That is a big mood. That is number 1. I think number 2 would have to be Long Live by Taylor Swift. I can't say any more than that. And then I think number 3, I Want to Get Better by Bleachers. I feel like that's a whole mood. Ain't It Fun, Long Live, I Want to Get Better. That's my book. And I am very confident in saying that. Olivia wants to know, what's your plan for editing? I don't have a plan. At this point, what's happening is in January, I am going to print out like a bound spiral copy of the whole first draft. And I'm going to sit down and read. And while I'm reading, I'll probably be taking notes and figuring out like, oh, I hate this. I want to change this. This character needs help. I already have a page of like, here's what, when I finished writing it, I know needs to be edited. But I haven't read the beginning in so long that it's like, I'm just going to read it and figure out what to do from there. I also have a lot of friends who are reading it who I'm hoping will offer some nice critiques. And so I'm going to use their critiques to kind of go through and like, I don't know. I've never edited a full novel before. I've done my poetry book and I've edited short stories, but I haven't edited a full book before. So I don't really know how it's going to go, but I'm generally a chronological person. So I'm probably just going to read through it and then start over at the beginning and edit from there. It's going to be a hot mess, but I'm really excited because editing is like where I thrive. I'm a really great editor. I would make an awesome editor. Emily wants to know, I think this is Emily, how Ace is it? It is Ace. I'm still playing around with how I'm going to explore that because the main character is Ace, and I have multiple times where she comments on her asexuality. And I had a friend who was like, you need to keep the Ace in there. I think it's good. But I'm not satisfied with how it is written right now, so I don't know how it's going to play out. But it is Ace. But I don't want the whole book isn't about her being Ace. I wanted it to be a story where it was about something else, and then she just like happens to be Ace because like that's just who she is. So it's not like a whole big like, I just realized I'm asexual kind of story. It's like, oh, and by the way, I'm Ace. And I might have a crush on you, but I don't really know what's happening, so let's not talk about it. I think that's it. Those are all the long, tedious questions that you guys asked me. I will keep you posted. Like I said, I actually have been like putting concrete details up on my Patreon, so if you are genuinely interested in that, you can head over there. The link is in the description. I promise it's a fun time. I give you podcasts sometimes. There's monthly projects. At this point, I'm just kind of waiting until January so I can like crank it out. I will try and keep you guys as updated as I can on the process. It's kind of difficult because I have so many secrets that I want to keep. But I cannot say this enough. I'm so excited for this project. Like it is actually dream project, thing that I know I can make better. I am confident that it is marketable, and that is really important as well. So like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I am like praying and hoping with all of my heart that in like 3 to 4 years, maybe it'll be out on bookshelves. Who's to say? Don't jinx anything. Thank you guys for watching. If you have other questions about my writing that might be things I could answer that aren't like specific to the story, you're welcome to drop them down below. You can always follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, follow me anywhere. Really, I have a lot of accounts, but there's all that details in the description. If you want to read a book by me that isn't fiction, I have a poetry book that's out on Amazon. You can get that for your friends. It's really, really good. It's really, really personal as well. So yeah, writing is going well. But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for watching and for being passionate about my writing, even though you haven't really read any of my fiction writing. I'm super excited. So excited. You have no idea. So thanks again, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!